Today we're going to cover 12 sneaky starts for week 7, and what we do is we go game by game, matchup by matchup. We have a little bit of fun and try to find that jabroni player who will exceed expectations. This is more for deeper leagues. This is more for fantasy players, fantasy gamers who are having trouble with their lineup. Looking at the matchups here, looking at how game scripts could break, looking at ancillary players who are gambles, who are lottery tickets for the week, might be something that could help you out. I expect maybe 10 to 20% of these players to actually hit, but again, this is more for fantasy gamers who are hurting this week with their lineups, looking for an ancillary player to really exceed expectations. That being said, you need to hit that subscribe button right now. Tap it with the finger on your phone. Click it with your mouse because we're covering these waiver wire players all week long. Then we're helping you set your lineups with must starts, sneaky starts, helping you with your trades and everything else. Hit that subscribe button. Stop missing out. But the first matchup we're covering here is the Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens. We got some injuries at running back for the Lions. The Ravens, tough defense. Vegas has a 43 over-under. They're expecting it to be a lower scoring game. Looks like it could be that way. Could be a nasty one. We got the Lions on the road. They might be throwing it a little bit more. It might be a little bit of a pass funnel in this game. We'll have to see. Considering Gibbs is going to be back, they might check it down to him more to let him have carries. That might be the more optimal approach with this matchup. That being said, when we think things through, trying to find a jabroni here, Jameson Williams, honestly, to break this game script, he needs to get deep. He needs some deep targets. They're going to have to test him deep to really spread things out so they can maneuver underneath and on the short game. So allowing him to run some 9 routes, chucking it deep to him a couple of times. And if he brings it in, you got a splash week. Right now, 12.2 ADOT. And that's with him barely even having an ADOT in that first game. Last week, deep ball city. Maybe deep ball city again. And again, when you're looking for players to scrape together a lineup with, look for the deep ball candidates. Because maybe they bring 1 or 2 home and you got a splash game. And if they don't hit, you know what? That's the likelihood of what you're looking at anyway, so why not go for the gusto? Now we're looking at the Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tough defensive battle here. Slower paced game. 37 over-under is what Vegas saying, so they kind of agree with my assumptions here. I can see Tampa Bay throwing it, though, because they like to heave it a bit. They did last week. The Falcons, you can be kind of optimistic with them because they got a lot of stars there on offense that they don't know how to use. That being said, Kyle Pitts, because you can throw on the Buccaneers a little bit because they're tough stuffing the run. That being said, they might push it outside to the receivers or even Kyle Pitts, who's used as a receiver most of the time. 6.3 targets a game, almost a 20% target share. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game, making him a sneaky start because you're not expecting him to get double-digit fantasy points, even though he's done that in his last 2 games. Might get something in this matchup considering how tight it could be. Now we're looking at the Washington Commanders at the New York Football Giants. Another gross matchup. This one could break though because it's so gross. That's the thing. 37.5 over-under is what Vegas is saying. And I kind of agree fundamentally, but I could also see how it could break due to turnovers, due to it being ugly. That being said, a jabroni we could be looking at here is Wan'Dale Robinson. Him getting targets, seeing a 20% target share, getting opportunity, could allow him to break, get some fantasy production. We saw that last week. Might be earning even more of a role as he's building more of a rapport, getting back to where he was from last year before he got injured. Now we're looking at our next game here. Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. Another ugly over-under here. We're at 40 though. The Bills though can push the pace. They can score. The Patriots are breaking right now. Could be a nasty one, but we can also see this game script breaking. And you want to look at these game scripts that could break, even though fundamentally it should be a lower scoring game, because the Bills can push the pace, they can score points. The Patriots could break on us. Their will could break in this game. And they're at home, though, which means the nastiness of this game could increase, creating that lower over-under of what Vegas is saying. But still, let's look at Gabe Davis. Let's look at some air yards here. Deep ball candidate. 74 air yards a game, 5 targets a game. Kind of like Jameson Williams here, but not with the speed. If he connects on any of those deep balls with that 15 ADOT, 14.9 to be exact, you might be in the money. We're due. We had a down week last week. This could be an ugly battle in some series, and they may decide to toss it deep. Gabe Davis, look at him as a sneaky start. Now we're looking at the Raiders and Bills, another ugly one. This is an ugly week of football. There's a lot of ugly matchups. We're going to have a lot of weird players hit this week. That's my big take for week 7, honestly. It's going to be a weird, ugly week. Raiders at Bears. We know it's ugly. We got the battle of the backup quarterbacks here. Let's look at Donta Foreman, Rashawn Johnson out. Donta Foreman got a lot of touches last week. 16, 57.1% opportunity share. Nothing's guaranteed here. This isn't a must start, but this is a sneaky start. We got a Jabroni running back in a Jabroni matchup, and Jabroni things are going to happen. Now we're looking at the Browns at the Colts here. Another ugly over-under at 40, that because the Browns' defense here, Deshaun Watson coming back. If Deshaun Watson's arm is good to go, and he's really slinging the rock at a full clip here and getting those pass attempts, we might hit that over, or it could be an ugly game where we're close to the over and it's kind of high scoring. That being said, we're looking at the Browns and Colts as another weird matchup due to that Browns defense being so stifling, and we don't know much about Deshaun Watson, but we know he's practicing, looking good. But Josh Downs, because this could be a progression funnel where Gardner Minshew has to go through his reads, slow it down, and go 1 for 1 with his progressions, and could mean more targets to Josh Downs, short targets in the short to intermediate range as he's going through his progressions here. He's getting almost 7 targets a game, almost a 20% target share. He's running almost 85% of his snaps in the slot. That indicates that, hey, if this defense is nasty and they're still trying to throw it and they're converting on some plays, maybe some of those are going to Downs. Now we're looking at Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. You can throw on the Seattle Seahawks. We've seen that. We've seen that all year long. We have a 44.5 over-under with a Cardinals team in there that can't slow down the pace, especially now they got a lot of jabronis at running back with Connor out. But looking at this, thinking things through, might be Michael Wilson time because he runs a lot of routes. He's in on almost 80% of the routes. It's bumping up a little bit because it was at 75%. So he's starting to get more opportunity. The targets aren't always there. It's either really low or really high. With this matchup here, could be a good time for him to get more involved. Plus, he's getting deeper targets, almost a 14 ADOT. Could be a sneaky start for this week, even though he's on waivers in a lot of leagues. Now we're looking at the Steelers at the LA Rams. 43.5 over-under. Lower scoring matchup is what Vegas is saying, but I see the Rams running loose in the passing game. 1, they're down running backs, and 2, you can throw on the Steelers. Steelers have to come back in this and fight with them. This should hit the over. This has a good chance of hitting the over and breaking. That's a good thing to see. That being said, Tutu Atwell, because the Rams can sling the ball around on this defense, they're going to be looking to do so. You're down at running back. Let's pass it a few more times because the matchup says, hey, let's do it. Since Cooper Kupp has been back, he's seeing 3 targets a game and a 10% target share, making him a sneaky play now. Even though he started the season off hot, we could be getting some opportunities here for Tutu Atwell as we're spreading the ball around because the matchup is dictating that. Now we're looking at the Packers at the Broncos with a 45 over-under. Kind of an ugly matchup, but could get us some fantasy contributors for this week. Again, they're expecting it to break one way or another. That's what Vegas is saying here with the 45 over-under. It's kind of high compared to some of the other matchups. Looking at that, Jaleel McLaughlin could be a jabroni that hits for us because he's getting opportunity. You can run on the Packers a little bit. They're giving 27.3 fantasy points per game. The running backs, Javonte Williams is there. But last week with Williams back, McLaughlin saw a 42.9% opportunity share, 9 touches. That might be enough for him to score you some fantasy points. Now we're looking at Chiefs and Chargers. This one's a hard one because you're starting everybody. You're starting everybody in this matchup, so there's really nobody sneaky. 48 over under, we could hit the over. It's going to be a fast-paced game, a lot of passing. That being said, let's go with Quentin Johnston because he's sneaky and no one's looking to start him. You shouldn't be looking to start him unless you're really, really hurting in it or in a very deep league. He's seeing about 3 targets a game, 7.3% target share, but he will be out on the boundary. He will be running routes, and maybe he gets some opportunity. Maybe he can get you that splash play. Now we're looking at the Dolphins, the Eagles, another matchup where you're starting everybody. So we got to go super deep here. If not, we're going too light in the paint. 52 over under. You're starting everybody. Keep that in mind. Braxton Berrios. Week 6 saw 46.7% of his snaps in the slot. 2 targets, ran 20 snaps. So he's getting opportunity. Maybe the ball goes his way. Maybe he catches 4 balls for 40 yards. Maybe scores a touchdown. Gives you a little bit of something. After all, week 4, he scored 17 fantasy points. He's getting some opportunity. Maybe that could equate to something in a matchup that's beneficial for all players involved running routes and seeing snaps. Now we're looking at the 49ers at the Minnesota Vikings. Could be an ugly game. We got a 44 over under here. Vikings want to push the pace. They're at home, but they may not be able to do so against that Niners defense. So this one's going to be a scrap with the Niners probably getting a huge lead in this one. Look at KJ Osborne getting ancillary targets in this offense. He's getting a 13.5% target share, but he's running a lot of routes, almost 40 a game. Progression funnel, as they're going to have to go through the reads and progressions against this tough defense, could allow for more targets going to Osborne. Does not mean he could go off, but it means he may get more opportunities due to that. Those are 12 jabroni sneaky start players for week 7. We like to have fun with this one. Go matchup by matchup. See how the games could break. See how they can benefit our fantasy teams. And see what we can do with these ancillary players who could exceed expectations for those deeper fantasy leagues. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who's that jabroni you're starting this week? Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out, and I'll catch you on the next video.